Hello, everybody, and welcome to the season one finale of Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I can't believe this is episode 22. It seemed like a great way to end the first season. And when I booked this artist, I was like, this is perfect. Everything's just falling into place. She's an icon in this industry. I'm really excited for everyone to just get to know her a little bit better. She's the incomparable Karel Flores. Hello.
Hi. I'm
How
so
are
happy
you?
to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. I'm
Of
like beyond
course.
honored.
Same. I'm always honored whenever, anybody wants to chat with me and it gives me the opportunity to tell my story from my side. And it's always great to do these interviews. I love to connect.
Thank you. First thing I'm going to ask, I know we went over this in our prep, but I definitely have been someone who's had my name butchered many, many times. So, can you, for our audience, please tell everybody the proper way to say your name? I know everybody goes
Yes.
by Carol, but I
Yes.
tried. I tried to do the
So
real one, but
I'm Mexican, right? So my,
yes.
my, my name in Spanish is Karel, right? So
Mhm.
it's not Karel or Corel, it's Karel in Spanish. In English, I just say Carol, like basically like Karen, but with an L.
Gotcha.
So it's not like Corel, it's Karen with an L, basically. That's what people like. It's easier for people to remember that way.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I hear all sorts of like Corel, whatever. My dance partner still calls me Karel, just to mess with me. So I don't honestly. It doesn't offend me or affect me in any way. I'm like whatever.
It is what it is, right? We have
Yeah,
special names, so we're used to people
yeah,
trying and butchering. At least your last name is simple. For years, I
right,
just went by just Sharonne. Nobody attempts the Vinokurov when they
right.
announce me
Like
on
people call
stage.
you Sharon, probably, right?
I've gotten Sharon, I've gotten Sharon, I've gotten all kinds of things that are not my name,
Right.
but it's all good.
Yeah.
So, we're going to start off the way we do with every guest. I'd love for everybody to know the history on you and how your dance life began.
Right. Well, my grandmother was a pioneer of mambo in Mexico. So she was
Wow.
like you can watch her in like old movies, like with, Perez Prado, or like she was like a dancer and she was an actress and a very important figure like in Mexico's, I guess, history. Um,
Mhm.
and I always had like dance in my life. I was just never like everybody in my family are either actresses or actors or singers or dancers or something, and I
Wow.
wanted to be rebellious and not be in the entertainment business. Here we are. So I always said I wanted to go to school. My mom is one of the few ones who's not in the entertainment business. So I was like, I want to be like my mom. I don't want to go down that route. I did like a few novelas when I was like soap operas when I was in Mexico, and I was like, it's not my thing. I want to go to school. So I was involved in dancing just because I'm such a hyper person,
Mhm.
but I was never really too serious about it. And then I started doing cheerleading. I did Hawaiian dancing. I did jazz in school and stuff like that. And then I did cheerleading. And in my cheerleading group, there was like a TV show, and my
Mhm.
cheerleading coach selected a few of us cheerleaders to go to that show and compete for a car. And in the show, we had like hip hop and cheerleading and salsa, right?
Okay.
And and my partner at the time, like I was a good spinner from the beginning, and like as soon as like they started spinning me, I was like, what is this? I love this spinning situation. So I think that's probably what hooked me. A lot of people criticize like the spinning in salsa. They're like, they're not salsa, whatever. I'm like, I don't care. I love to spin. I love to turn as fast as I can, as much as I can. Not social dancing, chill, but like for shows and stuff, like I really love it. So I started like training with this guy that I was doing the show with, and I just fell in love with it. I moved to Mexico City to train with Victor and Gabby, which are really big personalities, or were in that,
Mhm.
that time in Mexico. And I started traveling. I went to the San Francisco Congress. I met Osmar, and it kind of like I was there with my boyfriend at the time, and we went to San Francisco, then we went to Boston, then we came to New York. We started taking classes, and then at some point Osmar was like, oh my god, like you're so talented. If you ever wanted to join Yamule, you can. And I was like, I barely knew how to dance on two. I was a total beginner at salsa. I was like, why? And then yeah, I didn't really like I didn't really pay much attention to that comment. I was just like, okay, thank you. And then one day I was about to leave New York to go back to Mexico. And I met one of his dancers I met at a social. And he was like, we really want you in Yamule. Like, we really want you to come. And I was like, okay. So I spoke to Osmar over the phone. And yeah, I said, okay, I'm going to do it for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I can travel from here that was August 2005. I was like, I can travel from here to December maybe. And then I'm going to go back home.
Okay.
And I did it. I performed with Yamule, like, I think it was like 10 days after I joined the team. And then I performed with Osmar, like, at the San Francisco Congress in November. And yeah, and then I came back to Mexico. I said, I'm going to go to school. That's it. My dancing thing is over. I took a year off, like, great. And then Osmar called me and he said, I need you for a tour through Italy and Spain. I really wanted to go to Italy. So I came back. My mom and my stepfather were like, if you come back, I know if you go back, you're never going to come back to Mexico. And I was like, no, I promise. I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do it. And that's basically the only promise I've ever broken to my mom. And yeah, Osmar was like, look, you can dance here. You can become an American citizen here and have more opportunities and blah, 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 blah. And you can go to school, which I did for 2 years at the same time that I was going in Yamule. He was like, you can have probably more opportunities in a first world country than you would in a third world country. So I was like, okay. and I stayed in New York.
I love it. Well, we're going to go right to the video. We're going to start this off. That's
that video.
This video. I mean, you had to know this was going to be one of the videos on the playlist.
Right, for sure.
It's one of the most iconic. This I think is actually the first Yamule routine that I ever saw.
Right.
And it was the first time I saw you, and I was like, OMG, this shit is amazing. Because I had just come into the scene at the time.
Right.
So, like, this was my first seeing of New York salsa. And my God, this piece. So, can you talk to us about it a little bit? Because it's so iconic.
I mean, it's so funny because I feel like a lot of artists have this where this piece just haunts them because, like, I've done so much work after it. And I feel like I've done, like, I don't know if better work. I think this routine is so iconic. And when it happened, it was just amazing. But I think I dance better now, and people still want me to be that girl. So, it haunts me a little bit because I'm like, okay, can we get over this video and look at the video that I just posted? So, but I'm so grateful for it. This was a special moment. Like, I remember, that moment that everybody loves when he spun me and like whatever. I remember vividly that moment. Like, I remember what I felt in that moment. I remember who was in front of me. Anya was in front of me at that moment. Like, I remember playing with the audience. Like, I remember this moment a lot. And, there wasn't a lot of YouTube videos back then. And this came out and it opened the doors for me as Karel Flores. Like, it was never my intention when I was in Yamule. Like, I didn't want to be a solo artist. Like, okay, it's not that I didn't want to be. It's just I wasn't thinking that far. Like, for me, I was in Yamule and I was super loyal to Yamule and I loved what I was doing with Yamule and I knew that I had a lot to learn. And I was there. I was part of Yamule. Like I didn't want to, like, I didn't have, like, a lot of people go there, they want to learn, but they already know that they want to do something with somebody else or that they want to go on their own. Like, I didn't want that. I just wanted to be with Yamule. So for me, this gave me an opportunity to kind of like start teaching by myself and create a DVD and like start making a little bit more money off of dance. Because when you're in a team, the reality is that you can't make that much money. Like, it's not like promoters are paying you $10,000 to travel, So that gave me the opportunity to kind of like start establishing myself as Karel Flores of Yamule. And I'm really, like, of course, it haunts me, but I'm really grateful for that video, for that routine, for all the times and the moments that I spent with Yamule. They're very special to me. So,
well, we're going to look at several pieces from that time period, but I know you say like you're like over that video, but one of the things that I think is really great about this show, not just for our audience, but for you guys, the guests, is you get to take a look at your progression,
Right.
We all start somewhere, you know what I mean? We've all made mistakes and we all had a beginning. And even still to this day, I'm sure you, just like myself and many other artists, there are performances that we do and we're like, I don't want to watch that video again. but
So many.
so many. So let's be real, so many, right?
All
But
right.
it's so important, I think, for the up and coming dancers or the new students that are trying to perform for the first time or whatever, to see successful artists like you from the beginning,
Right.
and seeing how much you've grown over the years because of the work you've put into your craft.
No, not only that, like if I'm honest, I think I used to enjoy the stage more then. And I think it shows. And I think that, I've done a lot of work after, and I've been through so much in my career, and I've been through
Mhm.
so much as a person that sometimes it's hard to get in that zone, like you become so experienced that you're thinking about so many things, and you're thinking about technique and things and blah 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 blah, and the expectations and what people want to see from you, and you can't really get in that zone. Like it's hard for me now to get to that place where I didn't care, where I felt super confident on that stage, where nobody expected anything from me, so I felt so free to dance and just like whatever. And there's stages in your dance career, and things are going to change a lot, but enjoy your beginning, and
Mhm.
yes, continue to work hard to become the dancer that you want to be and to do other things, but at the end of the day, that beginning, I wouldn't change it for anything. Like the joy that I had when I was on that stage, the freedom that I felt, it's something that is a lot harder to tap into now.
Absolutely. I completely agree. There's a love and passion that we have in the beginning and a joy that the more we put in, the harder we become on ourselves and the less
For sure.
like we kind of forget those moments to
For sure.
enjoy and remember. Uh,
Yeah.
you said that when you came to New York and you started working with the Amole, it was your first time experiencing on two. Can you talk to me a
Yes.
little bit about this style and this growth for you with the new style of dance and new timing?
So I learned in Mexico on one,
Mhm.
and I started like with my boyfriend at the time. He knew on too, and I started like getting into it with him, but I didn't really know much of the technique or like whatever. However, on two came more natural to me, so I
Okay.
felt more comfortable dancing on two that I felt dancing on. I mean, obviously, like I was more comfortable on one at that time because that was it. But like when I danced on two, like something really clicked for me, and I really was able to connect to the musicality a lot more. So I was like, I want to learn everything on two, and I used to watch Santo Rico and Candy Mena on like a VHS. My God, I'm so old,
It's
right? From
okay, girl.
LA
We've all
Congress.
talked about VHSs on the show. You're not the first one.
So I used to watch this LA Congress from 2001, I think it was. And I was just so obsessed with it. And I was like, I want to go to New York and I want to spin like that, like Santo Rico at the time. And I
Mhm.
remember when I saw Yamule in San Francisco, I was like, oh my God, who are they? And they were like,
Mhm.
oh, it's Santo Rico. And I was like, but why are they wearing shirts that say like Yamu something? And they were like, oh, we don't know, but like that's Santo Rico. And I was like, oh my God, Santo Rico's gotten so much better, like even better. Like I loved it. And then like when I met Osmar, obviously I realized that it was that. But on two felt like a natural thing for me. Like when I came to Yamule, I didn't know a lot of on two, but like I said, it was just I felt it more. So it was an easy transition. It was all the tech. It was more than the on two. It was all the technique of spinning of Yamule that was really hard to adjust because I was good naturally at spinning, but I didn't have the technique. I was just like, boop, boop, right? So when Osmar was like, okay, you need to prep like this, you need to turn on one foot, for a while, I couldn't do more than two turns.
Really?
Yeah, of course, because my body wasn't adjusting as quickly as my brain, which is what happens to a lot of people. And that's why they tell them they have to be patient. Because when you do something naturally and then you try to adjust the technique or change or whatever,
Mhm.
it's going to take some time for your body to not go into like that muscle memory and to catch up to your brain. So for a while, I think it was more than 6 months, I couldn't do two turns.
Wow.
And then one day it clicked. Like I kept working. I wasn't discouraged by it. I was just like confused. Um,
Mhm.
and I just kept working really hard. And then one day, literally in the middle of a show, everything just was flowing. And I was like, oh my God. Like in the middle of the show, I was like, oh my God, I feel it. It's working. So that's how it happened to me. And that's why I tell a lot of my students, like, just, relax. And that's why it's also so important to find the right teachers from the beginning. I'm not
Yes.
saying that I didn't have the right teacher from the beginning, but a lot of the technique I didn't learn it, and it was more like a natural thing that was happening for me. And in the end, that was a setback,
Yeah.
because then I had to change a lot of things to be able to adjust to a new technique. So it's important to be picky with your teachers, especially when you're a beginner. So you don't want to develop a lot of like bad habits and stuff, and then it's harder to change it.
I have to ask, what is it like being Osmar's partner?
I mean, the thing is that, how can I explain this? When I came to New York, I was so innocent,
Mm-hmm.
like, to me, dancing with Osmar is like, he feels like a father figure to me. So dancing with Osmar was like, I'm this student that is just trying to absorb everything, and I had so much respect for Osmar. So to me, it was always more than a privilege. It was just like a learning, like a constant learning experience. Like I never saw like, oh, I'm dancing with the director, I'm going to become famous, or like, it was just like, okay, I'm the student, he's director, and I'm here to try to learn as much as I can and try to, do as much as I can. Osman is tough, and we have a lot of cultural differences, which made our relationship really challenging. It made my relationship with a lot of people in Yamule very challenging, because yes, I'm a strong woman, and I've been a feminist for as long as I can remember. And, culturally, Dominicans are a little bit different. And, we just like, we talk differently, like we have
Mm-hmm.
different ways to be. So it was amazing as a dancer, as a person. It was complicated for me to just adjust to the culture change and the whole thing. But Osman and I have an amazing relationship. We know we love each other very much, and like I said, I'm really really thankful for them. But I wanted to say that because it's not all easy. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
move to a different country, you're here alone. I was really focused on my dancing, and I have, I can do that. Like I can be like, okay, I'm gonna focus, but you go through a lot of struggles as a person, to fulfill your dreams.
Yep.
And you just have to be resilient enough to keep pushing, and you have to be wise enough to know who you are, to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people, and to do your inner work to make sure that you don't get too affected personally in the pursuit of your dreams.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's very important, I think. Advice for anybody that's watching for sure. Just a reminder for those that are watching live, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you have a question for my beautiful guest today or for me or anything about dance, do not feel nervous. Comment. We'll answer it. It'll be pulled up. I promise we'll get to your questions.
For sure.
Um, this is also another iconic, I feel like, routine.
I love
And
that
I,
routine.
I know, me too. And I wish I could play the music, but like I
Right.
need to hear you. But if
Right.
anybody wants to find these videos, they're all available on YouTube. Just search Yamule, search Karel. You'll find it. It'll be there. I
That
promise.
video is so funny because I was very sick, like
Here?
so sick. Yeah, like
Really?
I had a fever, I had body aches, I was super sick. And at the end, it's just like, you see, that's the thing with my personality. I'm like, sometimes my delivery is really bad, either
Hmm.
when I talk or with my body language. And I don't necessarily mean it, but I feel like for people on the outside, sometimes I appear to be like rude or too aggressive or whatever. But at the end of this video, we do a split, right? And
Hmm.
actually, like, we usually hold when I'm in the split, and he let me go, and my legs hurt so badly. Like I was
Oh
so
my
sick,
God.
and I'm in the split, and I like hit him on the leg, like, why are you letting me go? Like I'm so sick. I like get me up. Like it was just unbearable to be on a split. And like a lot of people watch this video and they don't notice, but once you notice, it's just really funny. I look like I want to kill. Like I want to kill. Yeah.
um, First of all, watching it, you can't tell you're sick whatsoever.
Oh,
I feel like
good.
a lot of people that watch dance don't understand what we put our bodies through. Like you
Yes.
had a fever. You probably should
Yes.
have been home in bed resting. But
Absolutely.
but here you are on stage. What do you do? How as an artist do you decide when to stay home and when to say, fuck it, I'm doing my job, I'm getting on stage?
Yeah. That's a very complicated question, because I can answer with the right thing to do, or I can answer with what I really do. Um,
Let's give both so that people,
you
because
know,
it's fair. It's fair. There's
right.
two answers to this.
Yeah, I feel like in retrospect, I've put my body through a lot of things. Oh, look, 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 I'm gonna hit Osmar. You see?
I
It's
love
so
it. It's
bad. Like
not that noticeable, but now I
putting my
know.
hands down, like, what are you doing? And then I hit him, like, you know I'm sick. Why are you letting me go into this place? So
Oh my
anyway,
God, that's
I feel
going in
like
my blooper reel.
yes. Anyway, I feel like in retrospect, I've always taken good care of my body,
Okay.
but I have a very high tolerance for pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I push it a little bit too much. And now I have a lot of health issues. I mean, a lot of them have to do with like I had mold in my apartment. If you follow me, you know the drill. But of course the traveling and the different food and the different water and like, you put your body through a lot. So then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, you're sick and you're not giving your body a chance to get better. It's just a matter of time until it's going to catch up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to care for you more than you care for the art to a certain extent. But in reality, I feel like when you're chasing your dream, sometimes you just have to be very resilient. So for me, unless I couldn't move, I would still perform.
Yeah.
Like until like maybe very recently, I started getting very bad injuries where I actually couldn't move. And then I would tell a promoter, like, I can't perform. I'll be there and I'll still go to the event and I would still teach. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's only been 2 events in my life that I've canceled. One, I had a really bad spasm. I didn't know what was happening and I couldn't move. And another one, like in 2018, I injured my knee. Like I tore my PCL. I couldn't walk.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like I canceled events, but I've been to events with like 2nd-degree sprains. I've been to events sick. I've been on stage like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of like conditions. So I don't know if that's ideal, but I do know that, like I said, there has to be a resilient for you to be in the top. So maybe try to find that balance and maybe try to know or really figure out how much you want it and if it's worth putting your body through that. And, try to recover well. Like I think that that's maybe where it went wrong for me because I didn't have the recovery. I didn't have medical insurance. I didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't spend or I didn't prioritize on like going to a chiropractor or getting massages or getting things.
Mm-hmm.
Now you come to my house and it's a PT, studio. I have all sorts of forms of recovery in my house. I go to massages all the time. I go to chiropractor all the time. I have a PT all the time. So if I'm rehearsing and I'm training a lot, that I'm gonna be taking care of my recovery. That's what I should have done from the beginning. So if you have the possibilities, prioritize on that because it's gonna lengthen your career and it's gonna make things so much easier for you. So that's a better answer.
That's a
Work
good
less,
answer.
but recover well.
I like that answer. And I think that's something we could all like remember occasionally because I think we all forget that as artists. We're always just, what does the audience need? What does the promoter need? And we forget about what we need.
Right,
So
because you see like athletes and they go all out and they dance, they perform with injuries or like
mhm.
whatever. But these athletes are making millions of dollars and their
Yep.
recovery is insane. They have cryotherapy chambers in their homes, We
Yep.
don't have that, but you have to find something for you and that you can either invest on, have at home and just have recovery because if not, believe me, hear me out, proper stretching, proper, cool down, like all those things. Don't just put them to the side because you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. I promise. And you don't want to.
No, no, you definitely do not. You do have some shout outs. Nuna Rodriguez
Oh,
says, Hi,
thank
Karel.
you.
Daniel Taros is writing, Karel is one of the finest, pivotal, yet amazing on the point artists in the industry.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
What do you feel when you have people giving you this, like lapping all this praise on you? How do you take it? Because I personally can't take compliments. I know that that's one of my things about me. So when people are telling you all the time, you're one of the most pivotal and amazing artists in our industry, like, what does that make you feel?
I mean, the truth is, I have imposter syndrome. Like
Okay.
probably 90% of the women in the world, right?
Hmm.
We grow up in a world that systemically is not designed to uplift women. So you grow up always, I mean, at least me, believing that I wasn't good enough. And you hear comments. For me, when I was sometimes in Yamule, I was like, oh, Carol's not really talented, she just works really hard, right? Or like little comments like that, or like, she does too many arms, she's not Caribbean, she doesn't have a lot of flavor. And for me, those things eventually weighed more than, or at that time, than the compliments. So I battle with that back and forth, with giving myself credit, and
Hmm.
also staying pragmatic about my dancing so I can continue to grow. But those comments, they give me validation, which helps me in my pursuit to to accept my success in a way, and to feel better about my life and my dancing. So that validation definitely matters. So I don't live for it,
Of
because
course.
I'm my worst critic. I can't enjoy most of the work that I do because I'm always like, oh, my shoulders are here, and I'm my worst critic, and I don't think it will ever go to my head, because I am very aware of what dance requires for you to be in top, and how it changes all the time, and how you
Hmm.
have to continue to work. But they definitely, sometimes I have dark days
Oh
where
yeah, for sure.
and then I get a message like that, and it actually makes a difference. And you're like, okay, like, somebody's been touched by my dancing, or somebody believes in me when I'm not believing in myself. So those things, and those people that are good to you and that take the time to do those things, they mean a lot. And I understand, like, you don't listen to the haters and all that, but like, those trolls, those people that are there to just put you down, they don't know
Hmm.
what you've gone through. They don't know what you could be going through in one day, and they hurt. Sometimes these things hurt. Sometimes you brush them up and you don't care, and sometimes they hurt. So I want people to know that what you tell us artists, it can have an impact, a positive or a negative one. And before you make the decision to put somebody down, you should think about that.
Very,
You
very
know?
true.
Yeah.
Very, very true. We're going to look at a little bit more of your solo work, or
Oh,
your ladies' work, if I
right.
will. I believe these videos actually refer to Carelas and her army.
Yes.
Can you talk
Yes.
about this whole project and the
I
formation of
mean,
your ladies group?
yeah, that's probably the dearest project I have, like, in my career. Because for so many reasons, um, it started developing into what it is now. But when I left Yamule, I'm very competitive, right?
Hmm.
And I have a very strong personality, and I don't have the best delivery, and blah blah blah. So I was in a lot of trouble constantly in Yamule, and I, like, being competitive was not a good thing at a time. I think to a certain extent is a good thing, but you need to be able to manage that, right? And I
Hmm.
wasn't. So when I left Yamule, I was like, I want to work on that as an individual, and I want to take down those biases that say that women can't work together, right?
Hmm.
For myself personally, and for all of us. So I created, my team, and it like I said, it started developing into what it is now. At the time, it was just like Karel Flores, New York City. And then, I hear a lot that I'm a bitch, right? Like, can I curse? Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Right. So it's like,
I
oh,
said the
she's a
F word
bitch.
already. We're good. We're good.
Like, at the end of the day, if you're a strong woman, and regardless of your delivery or personality, if you're a strong woman, if you stand your ground, if you are doing other things, if you're not depending on a guy, or like whatever
Mhm.
it is, even if you walk in serious into an event, oh, Carol's a bitch. I've heard it so much. And I was like, okay, you're gonna call me a bitch because I'm a strong woman? Fine. I'm gonna give you an army of bad bitches.
I love that.
So it started being like, I'm gonna train all my dancers to be outspoken, to be strong, to believe in themselves. And if you're gonna call us all bitches because of that, then my hashtag is army of bad bitches. So that's why some people say army, because they don't want to say the bad bitches part, which is
Ugh.
fine. And then, like, also we've been to events where I do like world team trainings and we're like 50, 60 girls. We all dress the same color. And it looks like an army, like you walk into a social, 50, 60 girls dressed in the same color, it's like, okay, that's the army. So yeah, that's my army. And I love them so much. I'm so thankful for everything that they've taught me as a teacher, as a person, as a dancer. Yeah, it's such a special thing for me. And I have them all over the world. And it's very interesting to see how this message is cultivated across cultures, right? Like, yeah, I live in New York City. Most people are super progressive, but they're not the same way in Russia, for example, right? So to like, I've sat with my teams in Russia and be like, who's a feminist? And they don't raise their hand. And they say, oh, I'm not a feminist because I love men. And I'm like, my boyfriend's right here. I love men too, So it's an opportunity to kind of like get educated all together and to stand for something. I feel like we don't stand for enough things in the salsa world, which is fine. It's not a criticism, it's just what it is. And to be able to stand for something that I believe in so greatly and to work on it at the same time myself, because like I said, I'm very competitive and I've done a lot of stupid things because I'm competitive. And to be able to experience every day and to be like, I'm not competing with them, they're my team, we all together. So it's just, it's amazing. I am obsessed with this project, and I'm really thankful for all of them for just allowing me to have it.
I think it's such an important message for sure. That, I feel like a lot of women in this business, we get told very often, be quieter, don't stand up. Like you're saying, you're loud and you have your opinions. And nobody ever looks at the men in our business who speak up for themselves as being bossy. They're just
right.
They're just,
I mean, that's not only our industry, that's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Absolutely. It's everywhere. But in our business, for sure, it's, be the pretty side girl. Don't say anything.
I feel like there's a strong message where, yes, the man leads, the woman follows, and then they take it into everything and not just like the actual, and even then, like, of course, the man is leading and the woman is following, which now, we have men leading and women leading. And,
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's still a communication.
Yes.
Right? Even when you're dancing, yes, I'm following somebody, but that doesn't mean that I'm not communicating. That doesn't mean that you are not supposed to feel my energy too. That doesn't mean that you're not supposed to leave me room to express myself. That I'm just like blindly following you. That's not the case. So that's what's happened a lot in the scene. Like the men have taken this role of leaders, and then the women are just like almost dispensable. Like they're just like disposable. Yes, right? They're just disposable. And the message is clear. Like a lot of guys are like, well, then I'll have this partner and I'll have this partner, and it doesn't really matter. And the woman doesn't get this place. And I think things are changing because a lot of women are standing their ground, and I'm really happy to see it. But that's a fact. And then you also have the message in society and in the salsa world where there's just not enough room for women. Where you have to fight for that spot. You have to fight for that spot so hard. So then we become competitive between each other.
And it's such a shame because we shouldn't be. We should be able to support each other and uplift each other. Right. But our business pits us against each other.
Right.
All the time.
We have to fight it. Like me as a person, I have to fight this part of myself that stems from insecurity and then stems from low self-esteem and also from my industry, so it's like I have to fight it from both sides, and sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't, and I don't get along with a lot of people in the industry because of this, and it's easy to take responsibility and move forward, and here's where we are.
That was so powerful. I felt so much of what you just said. Like, oh my goodness. We're going to take a look at another partnership or a new partnership that you took on. And we're going to start it with this gorgeous video that you did.
Yeah.
Talk about you and Mark and how this all came to be.
So when I left Yamule, I was supposed to dance with this friend from Yamule, and then it didn't really work out. And I was like, okay, I want to take about a year to be on my own, to figure out what I want. But my true love is partner work. Like, yes, I love dancing with my girls, and it's a challenge on its own, but I love to turn. Like I said at the beginning, right? Like what got me was this turning, this spinning, and I just love the dynamics of partner work and doing tricks. And I love to complicate my life. So, I can do that more with partner work. And at some point, I think it was in November, I had oh no, like I was starting to look for a partner, and he sends me an email, and he said, like, hey, do you want to work together? And the truth is, I didn't like him at all. Like, I've had like encounters with him a few times, and I just didn't like him at all as a person. And I remember, like, my last show with Yamule, he came to me and he was like, oh, I was in Berlin, and he was like, hopefully we'll see you again on stage with somebody else at some point. And I was like, yeah, whatever. He gave me a hug, and I was just like stiff, like, who are you? Why are you talking to me? I don't like you. And then when he emailed me about working together, I was like, absolutely not. Like, no way. And I'm really bad at responding, especially if it's something like that I have to think about, or I have to think about how to respond. I don't get, like, I hate confrontation, so I just kind of put it away. And it's not like I'm being an asshole and not responding. I'm like, oh, how can I avoid responding to this? And I just leave it there. So we met up in an event in Bahrain, and he was upset because I wasn't responding to him. Which I said it was not on purpose. And then that night, I wasn't thinking about like him, and I was like, okay, it's time for me to look for a partner, because I was talking to Ataka, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to start dancing with a partner. And he got really upset because he saw that post, and he told Ataka, like, oh, I can't believe she's not responding to me. Like, it's so rude. She's so rude. And Ataka came to me, he was like, you're being rude. I'm like, I know. I'm sorry. I just don't know how to say, like, I'm not interested. So then I was leaving the party, and he was coming in, and he was like, hey, do you want to chat? And I was like, okay. and then we just started chatting, and we were aligned in a lot of the things that we wanted to do. And I was like, fine, let's give it a shot. It's going to be hard because you're in Italy and I'm in New York. And, I had a boyfriend at a time, and yeah, we started working. It was very challenging from the beginning. Like, this guy and I are very different people. And we also have very different dance training. So, by this video, we were already kind of getting better at dancing together, and we were really kind of like blending into our techniques. But that took 3 years. And literally, that video came out January 1st, and January 8th, we were done. Like,
oh, wow.
We decided to stop dancing. So we didn't really get a chance to exploit the partnership. I think we had a lot to give together, but I wasn't really comfortable. Like, we had, like, I have a partner now, and we see things the same way. We're just as obsessed. I mean, he was obsessed too, but in his own way. This was our debut, and it was probably the worst show of my life.
Oh, well, then we're not going to play it very long. We'll show just the beginning with the really pretty costume.
I mean, it was an amazing choreography. It's just somehow, like, I was struggling with a lot of things personally, and we were starting to be a couple, and like, it didn't work. Like, it was something that I cannot explain. We were a couple, we were happy, and like, whatever, but somehow dancing wise, like touch wise, it didn't work. And we were pushing it a lot. And I know some people are like, this is amazing. What do you mean it didn't work? Like, I really love it and whatever. But I never felt like fully me. I always went on a stage, and I always felt like, oh my God, I hope this goes well. You always have that thought, but it was like, oh, we didn't rehearse enough, or we didn't do this enough, or like, I don't know. It was something strange. And I loved the time that I the shows that I did with him, and it was a learning experience, but I think it was the best thing that it was over.
How did you two make it work, especially in the beginning? Like you said, he was in Italy and you were in New York. Like, what was that process even like? Because I know people who struggle making it work with somebody who lives like 2 states over.
Yeah, I mean, making it work, right? Like, he was coming to New York whenever he could, and finding work here to just train. And then I would go to Italy. But like, that show that you just played before, right? That I said is probably one of the worst shows of my life. That show is probably one of the most challenging choreographies I've ever done. And we probably ran it from beginning to end maybe 5 times before we went on stage. Mind you, with the Amule, we would work for 6 months before putting something on stage. And that's how
Mhm.
I feel comfortable, right? So for me, already going on that stage, I was already super insecure because I knew we didn't. So a lot of the issues with him was very much mentally because I wasn't training the way I was used to training, right? Because of the
Mhm.
distance or whatever. So it was very challenging. If you ask me, I would not suggest it. I would not suggest, like, eventually, like when we became a couple, I was in Italy half of the year and he was in New York half of the year. But at the beginning it wasn't that way and I had a lot of work to by myself. So it was very challenging. Like I wouldn't do it again with anybody. You're either in the same place with me or it can't work. With Bruno, with my new partner, we rehearse 3 times a week. We rehearse super intense. Like if we need
Mhm.
to do extra rehearsals or we need to do this or that, we need to check out the costumes or sit down in a sofa for 3 hours looking at videos, just we can do that. And I didn't have that with Marco. And on top of the fact that, like I said, our techniques were different, our background education was different, it was just so challenging. I
Yeah.
think the result overall was good, but it was just so challenging to make it work.
I mean, none of us could have known that that was going on because it definitely didn't show
I think a lot
whatsoever.
of people could. I think a lot of people could.
Really?
There's a lot of people that say like my worst dancing times was with when I was with him. Like I had a
Really?
lot of shows. Like with Yamule, I would never mess up in a show, right? And with Marco, we would mess up constantly. I fell on stage, like you
You
know,
fell on stage? Oh, I did
I
not
fell
know
on
that.
stage with him a few times, and it
Oh.
was just like it was. I don't know how to explain it because I'm not somebody that's very like out there metaphysically or like I'm
Mhm.
very pragmatic as a person. But listen, with Osmar, like the moment we touched hands, there was this chemistry when it came to dancing, right?
Mhm.
Even though as people we were so different, it was still like whenever we touched each other's hands, it was just a flowing. It was like
Mhm.
this energy. I didn't have that with Marco. Like it was hard for us to choreograph, to bring our ideas together. It took a long time, and it was just it always felt like hard. It always felt hard. For example, now with Bruno, we choreograph so fast
Mhm.
and it feels easy for me to dance. Like I'm not tense. Like, of course I'm tense. It's hard, but it just feels easy. So you have to, and I think that where it went wrong is
Mhm.
that we decided to become partners before trying to dance together.
Ooh, yeah.
Like we were like, okay, let's do this. It's a great idea. And then the first rehearsal, we had already announced our partnership. We had already events booked. And it
Mhm.
was like, oh, this feels weird. Okay, it's gonna get better. And it wasn't really getting that better. It was really hard. So if somebody can take something out of this is try it well before you decide
Yes.
if this is gonna fit. You do that with shoes and with clothes. You should do it with partners too. It's like when you're meeting somebody, you go on several dates before you
Yep.
decide that you want him to be your boyfriend. With dancing, it should be the same way. Like like try it out, talk about it, figure out if you have the same taste in music, if you have
Yep.
the same ideas. Like him and I didn't really have that, and then we became a couple, and we were truly trying to fight for it because we liked dancing together and it was a good idea, but there was something that
Just
wasn't
didn't feel
there.
right. Yeah.
There was just something that wasn't there. Yeah.
And sometimes as much as you want something, it's
You
just
have to
not.
know when to step away.
You have to know when to step away. How did
Yes.
you I wanna go back, I know we're not staying in the timeline anymore, but because of what you just said, how did you know when it was time to step away from Yamule? If you're okay answering that question.
No, no, no. I'm okay. I'm thinking about it because
Okay.
it's like it has several parts. But there was a point where I was very affected as a person.
Okay.
Like I remember one day looking in a mirror, and this sounds so cliche and corny, but it's true. And I was like, I have no idea who I am. Like I came to New York by myself. I was 19 years old.
Mhm.
I have nobody around me that understood me. I think I have a lot of fault in it for sure, but and I would hear a lot of things about who I was. And I
Mhm.
think that when you have a support system, you can come home and they're like, "No, dude, you're not like that," or like that's a perception or whatever. When you come home alone,
Mhm.
you're like, "Am I
Yep.
that person? am I like this? So I was starting to get very affected emotionally.
Mhm.
And that was already like Osman and I had a lot of fights. Like we were having a lot of fights, and I had already left the team at some point, and I came back. But I was like, okay, this is starting to feel really toxic for me. Whether maybe I was the toxic one, right? For
Yeah.
sure. But it was just again like kind of like it was starting to be a little too much. Besides that, I was already 28 years old,
Mhm.
almost 29. I wasn't making a lot of money, right? And I was like, okay, at some point I was like, fuck, like I know this is my dream and I love Yamule, but I need to figure out something when it comes to making more money. I need to save money. I need to like I need to become a businesswoman, like not just a dancer. So that was
Yep.
another thing. And then I was starting to get really tired in rehearsals. So I knew my motivation wasn't all there.
Mhm.
And I want to change my circle as well. Like the people that like somebody was like, you become the people that you spend the most time with. And I was
Agreed.
like, not that there was anything wrong with them, but I was different. And like, and when I left that, and I have my circle of friends and close people around me. Like I remember my first boyfriend after I left Yamule, he said, I love that you're outspoken. He was a scientist. He was like,
Mhm.
this is how we talk in science. We don't sugarcoat things. Like, I love that you're a feminist and a strong woman. This is why I'm with you. So at some point I was like, wait, I was just in the wrong place.
Yep.
Like there was nothing wrong with me. I mean, yes, there was a lot wrong with me and a lot of things that for sure. Like
None of us
it
are
takes two to
perfect.
tango. No, like it takes two to
Exactly.
tango. If you're in a relationship that's
Absolutely.
not working, it's not somebody's fault. It takes two to tango. I fully take responsibility over my things. But in a way, I was like, wait, I was just in the wrong circle. I was just with the wrong people.
Mhm.
And that's why I was so constantly misunderstood. You know, so that's like that day that somebody told me you become the people that you spend most time with. That's the day that I came to rehearsal. I said, Osman, I want to talk to you about leaving the team, because that was a big thing for me. And I told him that night, I was like, I'm just not, my heart is not in it as before. And I'll finish the trips that I have, which was 6 months. I gave him 6 months in advance, and then yeah, I decided to leave. And it was tough. It was very tough. It was very
But you
tough,
don't
but it was
regret
the
it?
right decision. Oh,
Yeah, you don't.
not for a second.
You made the right choice,
For
and
sure.
look how much your career has grown. I mean, not that it wasn't you
Right.
weren't, Karel Flores then, but
Right.
now you could be Karel Flores and her army.
Yeah, and the thing is that as an artist, like I was working for 8, 9 years, almost 10 actually, with Yamule, so hard for somebody else's vision,
Mhm.
right? That's what you do when you're in a team. Yes, you can have input and you can do this and this and that and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a director that is going to make the decisions, and you're working really hard for him, for his vision, for his dream, for his whatever. When I left Yamule, now I'm working with my vision. I pick the songs that I want. I pick the outfits that I want. I have the people around me that I want. And of course, like that sounds like a dictatorship. Of course, I talk to my girls, but I'm working for my vision. This is my career. With my partner, we're working together for our vision. So I think it's important to have this as if you're an artist, eventually in your life and in your career, you have to work for your vision and for your passion and not always for somebody else's.
I love that. That's so important, I think, especially for a lot of women in this business because like you said, you start on a team and you're technically working for someone else's vision. You
Yes.
don't ever start with your own, you
Yes.
know? Nobody takes their first well, nobody should take their first dance class and with no experience go, I'm gonna open up a studio and start teaching people
For
because
sure. For
you
sure.
need to know, you need to
Right.
learn.
Yeah.
There's a whole problem right now in our scene with people without really any training trying to be
Right. And
teachers.
there's always been that problem.
But I think YouTube has made it worse for
Yes,
sure. And
probably.
the instant fame culture
Right.
that has happened in
Right.
this country has not
Right.
helped matters. But I think that those artists like yourself that have put in the work, that have put in the time and have earned the status that you have, I think you guys continue to hold a standard regardless of what youngins are coming up or whatever. Not to
Yeah, but
insult the youngins.
no, for sure, for sure. But I think like, at the same time, you gotta go for it. like when I started in Yamule, like even when I left Yamule, I didn't feel like I was ready. Even when I
Mm-hmm.
performed with my partner after 3 years of working in a routine, right? Because so much has happened, I still didn't feel ready.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find that balance where you're just like sabotaging yourself or being overly insecure and you don't want to do things to just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you just got to go for it. And yes, prepare yourself and continue to take classes and like all that stuff. But also, that's the other side of the coin where people are like, oh, people are teaching too fast or people are performing too fast or whatever. Yes, I think people need to be way more prepared to do these things. But at the same time, where is that line? When are you really prepared? Right? When I started teaching in Yamule, I told Osmar, I'm not ready to teach. I'm not ready. I don't know what to do. Like, he's like, yes, you do. You have enough experience. Go and teach, And I didn't feel ready, but Osmar said, I was, and he put me to teach. And I learned I'm not the same teacher that I am today that I was then, but starting then gave me the opportunity to develop as a teacher that I am today. So, it's a tricky thing between being overly prepared, underprepared, and just being afraid of going for it.
But there is a difference, I think, between, what you're saying. Like you said, Asmar pushed you to teach and you didn't think you
Right.
were ready, but he did.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it's not
Right.
like, your best friend from high school who has no experience goes,
Right.
yeah, you should be
Right.
teaching. This was
Right.
a smart
Right.
Baron is saying,
Right.
no,
Right.
go do it, and
Right. Right.
and there's a big difference to that. Um, do you think meeting him changed your life?
Osmar?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, to start off, I didn't want to have a career in dance. Osmar was like, you can do it. Like I didn't even want to. It's not that I didn't believe in myself. I wanted to do something else. But, being with Yamule, I was so invested in it and I loved it so much. And I truly figured that I could have a career in dance. So to start with that for sure. And then Osmar just gave me so many opportunities, and taught me. And Osmar taught me so much about what I don't want too, like he taught me a lot of what I don't want as a teacher, what I don't want as a mentor, what I don't want as a person, like not necessarily because he's bad or whatever, but our cultural differences, are very real. And I learned a lot of things, positive and negative, by being with Osman. And like I said, like I see him as a father figure. To me, he's family. Regardless, like when I left, he was upset, and like regardless of whatever, he's family to me now.
Yeah. I love it. This talk about an army here. This is actually listed as a pro team.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
actually
so-
have different levels within your groups?
So I have a semi-pro and I have a pro team.
Oh, okay.
Right
Nice.
now, I consolidated them both because of COVID.
Of
like
course.
COVID. But I used to have like a semi-pro that was directed by Natasha. She's there. She's redhead, really good. She was also dancing with Yamule, and amazing dancers. And my pro team. I mean, they don't make money off of it. They're still my students, but I call it a pro team which is also like, you could argue that point, but because to me, the level of dancing that we're doing and the training that we do is of professional dancers. But if we talk about money, they don't make money. I mean, my teams around the world, they make money off of dance, but my dancers, I can't pay them a lot. Yeah, that's the reality, right?
Shandibury wrote, I love your vision and your confidence as a dancer. I must say, I've learned a few things just by watching you today. You're an inspiration.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is the goal from these interviews, to hopefully inspire people and for them to hopefully learn something. So
absolutely.
You made it.
There's one boot camp that I found of yours. And I'm going to show it just because there's so many people on this stage.
Oh yeah.
In Guatemala.
Yeah. That was a fun one.
How do you do this whole, like, when you travel to these congresses and you've got all these people from all over, how do you manage to coordinate and
girl, I don't know. Like, I've had so many of my colleagues be like, why do you make your life so hard? Like, just don't do formations. just keep it all. It's very stressful. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, it's like I like to challenge myself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I like to put out work that looks like there was work involved. Like I, I
Mm-hmm.
I like that, and I enjoy. I you know Also, when I started dancing salsa, for me to pay for it, like pay for a private or pay for whatever, it's expensive from Mexico, like when you turn it into dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a few privates and I didn't feel challenged enough. I didn't feel like I learned enough. And for me, it clicked then at the beginning of my career. If I'm going to charge $100 for a private, it has to be worth their time,
Yep.
right? So when I think about people paying for a boot camp, I always think, okay, I'm gonna do a boot camp. What can I do to challenge them or to try something new? Like that's why I did the hats and I do skirts and like things like that. I'm like, I want them to learn something, to really learn something. And it's a tricky thing because for some of them it's too much. Like I have people that cry in boot camps, like that has the opposite effect that I would want it, right? Like it takes
Of
a toll on their
course.
self-esteem, or they just didn't enjoy it, or they end up fucking hating me or whatever. But for me, it's like people are gonna pay for this. It has to be worth it. So I complicate my life and I do formations and I try to do a good show and I, like just treat them like professionals,
This
for
was
a
the first
weekend.
one. This is the first one I've seen with guys.
Yes. I've had a few with like one guy or two guys, and sometimes because of the height, they're in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But then these guys were all short, and I had three, and they're amazing. I'm obsessed with these kids. They're so good. They're actually from Costa Rica. The boys that are there are from Costa Rica.
Nice.
And I love them so much. They're so good. And it was like, okay, we have guys, let's do partner work.
Which you
Let's make it
love,
harder. Yeah.
which you
So
absolutely love. So,
these boot camps are challenging, and sometimes I'm exhausted and cranky, and to deal with different levels and to put them here and put them there, and try to, like, at the same time be nurturing and to be a mentor and like not make them feel like shit. It's hard. Like I think 2019 I was suffering from a lot of like health issues and I was exhausted. I literally was ready to retire, and I stopped doing boot camps. I said I need a break from the boot camps, and then I'll do it again later, but I just need a break because I'm exhausted. It's 10 hours at least. Like,
mm-hmm.
the package is 10 hours, but sometimes I spend 15, 16 hours with them. We do extra hours because the show is just not coming out. So imagine sometimes in an event I would do 15, 16 hours. Like sometimes when I was traveling with Marco, I would have my team, so I would do a show with my team, 2 shows with Marco, and a boot camp, and I would do maybe like 3 hours of workshops and then 15, 16 hours of boot
Oh
camp
my
in a
God.
weekend. Like I remember once I went to an event and I slept 12 hours from Friday to Monday, and I taught 17.
Yeah, that's not normal for most
That's
people.
not that's just not sustainable. It's just
No,
not
it's not.
sustainable.
It's
It's not
not
sustainable.
sustainable.
So, when they hire me for a boot camp, I'm like, you have to understand that I can't stay in a party till 4 in the morning because I have to sleep and wake up and teach these people. And like, it's hard. People want to see you social dancing. People don't always understand that you're exhausted. So for a while, I was like, okay, let me stop doing boot camps. Let me do something else so I can social dance, so people can be happy. Try to make everybody happy. It's complicated. I love it. I love my boot camps. I love my work. Like I say the
Mhm.
hard things because people need to be aware that
Oh, for sure.
there's two sides of the story. But don't get me wrong. I love my boot camps. I love my girls. I love my work. Whether I sleep 12 hours or I sleep 20 hours, this is something that I love for sure. Just in case you're doubting.
Nobody's
I
doubting.
love
And you can
it.
see how much you love it just when you watch. I mean, even this is you solo
All right.
focusing on you. And
All right.
anybody who's watching this, like, you can just see the love and the passion that you have for what you're doing.
All right.
And I think that's something super important, especially when you're doing solo work out there. You have nobody else
Right.
to rely on. It's just you
Yeah,
selling you.
and it's like people don't like there. I had recovered from the knee injury, right? This
Hmm.
was August. I was recovered in March, and I had health issues and I was allergic to gluten, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting inflammation, and I have hives all over my body in that video. And I
Wow.
didn't know what was happening. I couldn't eat in Martinique because I couldn't find food that was gluten free. There, my mom's husband had been murdered in Mexico the month before that video.
Oh my
So,
God.
like, those are the things that people actually don't know. Like, you get on a stage and you have to make it work, right? But I was suffering, like, I was going through a lot personally. And I mention these things because I want people to realize that artists are also people, and
Absolutely.
sometimes you're going through so much and you're still getting on that stage. And I still get on that stage for those people. I'm still here today
Yep.
because a lot of people love me and admire me, and their love and admiration, they mean so much to me. And in my darkest times, I could only pull through because I could remember these people, but I sometimes you wish it was a back and forth, that people also saw you as a human, and try to understand. Like, there's comments of that video like, oh my God, why is Carol so fat? Right?
Oh,
And
I want
I
to
don't
smack
care.
people
Like, listen,
sometimes.
no, but like, I don't care. At the end of the day, I understand, but they don't know that I couldn't eat anything but M&Ms whenever I was traveling because there was nothing else that was gluten free, or
That's
because
crazy.
I was grieving. Like, it's crazy. And this is why I love these interviews, because people, I think people need to know that we go through a lot as artists, and we're still there. And it's important to be kind to the people that you watch on a screen sometimes, because
Oh,
not everybody
so
is,
true.
like,
Absolutely.
Lizzo, like, was crying on Instagram the other day because people were like talking so badly about her recent video or something. Like, why do you make your artists
Why?
cry? Like,
Why?
don't do that. Like,
No,
we have to be nicer to each other. You never know what people are going through.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the last thing that I want to show of yours is the newest project that you came out with. Y'all damn near broke the internet with this shit.
I love it
Contigo.
so much.
This video, my God, woman.
You just posted it, like, you just put it right. I've seen this video 1,000 times, and you just put it right now, and I felt joy and butterflies in my stomach, and like, I'm so
Mhm.
happy with this.
I think that's how we all feel when we watch this video. It just
I
gives
hope
you
so.
joy. The music is fantastic.
Thank you.
The obviously the quality of dancing is just exceptional. But
Thank
we,
you.
that's you. We get that. Um, tell me about the concept, the choreo, like the whole thing. How'd you guys come up with this project?
Um, so we're actually gonna come out with a behind the scenes soon. So stay posted
Yay.
for that, where we tell like the whole story of this. But um, actually, Marco introduced me to Bruno, which is
Really?
super funny. Yeah. Bruno, he used to watch me. Like, he's 6 years younger than me. So he said, like, oh, when I was younger, I used to watch her in Yamules, blah, 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 blah. And then one day he was going to go compete in La Negra. I don't know if maybe you can find that video. And he contacted me to look at his routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Bruno is just, he is doing his PhD in microbiology in NYU, right?
What?
So he works full time at a lab. He's literally today working with the Delta variant, right?
Oh
Like,
my
yeah,
God.
like, he is an impressive human being. He is the kindest person that you'll ever meet. He is, I don't even know how to describe what I feel towards Bruno as a person. He's like family to me. I don't know. It's amazing. So he's an amazing individual. Like, he's just an amazing person besides being an amazing dancer. But so he contacted me. I went to see his routine. He sent me the video, and I was like, who are you? Where did you come from? He was amazing. He went, like, we did the private, and I was very comfortable with being myself, meaning a little bit mean. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's great if this was 1995, but it's not going to work for 2018, And he just took my corrections. He liked that I was so blunt,
Oh,
and I said I want him as my partner. Like, in 1 second, I knew that I wanted him as my partner. So I spoke to a few friends, Tito and Tamara, and Ricardo, people I trust. They knew Bruno well, and they were like, yeah, go for it. So I contacted him and I said, let's dance together. And he was like, what? Like, Why are you asking me to dance together? So we started working. First of all, it was so easy. Like that beginning that you guys see in the video with the a la seconde and then the slide and whatever. We did it in our
Gorgeous.
first rehearsal. Our
Did you
first
really?
rehearsal. Our first rehearsal. Like when
Magic.
we started working together, I said, Bruno, I don't like to pick music. I do not like to listen to salsa songs. I love salsa, but I can't listen to them for 3 hours. And then like, like sometimes a song is good later and then you have to hear the whole, like, I'm like, no, I don't choose music. You find the music and then we'll pick together. So he found the song. And yeah, from the first rehearsal, we had, I think by our third rehearsal, we had 3/4 of the routine done.
Nice.
Which is like the contrast, right? And it's not a comparison. I don't want anybody to think it's anything personal, but it took 6 months for Marco and I to choreograph something. I mean, maybe because we were boyfriend and girlfriend too, and that, played a role. But with Bruno, it was just like from the first day, I trusted him in the tricks. It felt just so right. And it's funny because from this video, a lot of the comments that we've gotten is we can see the connection that you guys have.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how people see our connection. Like I don't know what they see. I feel it, but I don't know
we see
that it was actually something that you could see through a screen,
absolutely.
And yeah, we started working on the choreography and it was like, it's such a partnership.
I love that.
Sometimes I do something, sometimes he does something. Sometimes I don't like something that he does and I compromise because I believe in his vision and vice versa. Or sometimes we believe in our vision enough to say it and change it. Like we do things together. It flows. Like I put one step, he puts the other. I think of something and then he fixes it or he thinks of something. Like it's amazing. It's fucking magic. Like
I love that.
It's just like, it's the right person. Like I'm not... The other people are amazing, but they were the wrong people for me. And I want to make that very clear. That has nothing to do with them being bad or me being good or like absolutely nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing people that just can't be together, right?
Not everybody is a perfect fit.
Yeah, Bruno and I are a perfect fit. Like as friends, we can talk about anything. We have the same values. We want the same things. And as professionals, it just works.
Yeah.
We feel the music the same way. We want the same things. We rehearse with the same intensity. I am a lot. Like Bruno's a saint for putting up with me because I'm a lot. Like sometimes it's 3 a.m. and I'm sending him like if something is not coming out, I'm sending him videos of like the first rehearsal back to back with the other video edited and be like, look, in 0.5, I am jumping a little bit more to the left. And that's probably why it's not happening, right? Not everybody can handle that. The next morning, Bruno's like, you're right. Let's go rehearse and fix it. It's a perfect partnership. It's a perfect fit. I am so happy that I finally got to this point with somebody.
I'm so happy that you are at this point with somebody. And I will say this, as gorgeous as that video is, the final production, there's a video on YouTube of you guys debuting it, I believe. And at the end, you jumped on him after the battle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you could just see like the love and happiness. Like you were just like, oh my God, that was so good.
Yes.
And that was, sometimes we don't see those moments. Like as an audience, we don't get to see those moments between partners. So me watching that, I was like, oh, they're so happy. Like it made me happy watching it. And not to take anything away from the ending, from the action, because when you jump into that dip and that, like, that's just the, but I love that moment of you guys like hugging it out.
I love that moment. That's one of my favorite moments. And you see, this meant a lot to me because when I started dancing with Marco, like I said, I was going through a lot, like personally, because I was leaving Yamule kind of like really messed up in the head. And then Marco and I started dating, and it was just so many things, right? I developed stage fright. I couldn't get on stage. Like I was just so afraid. Oh yeah, so afraid. And it makes me almost tear up because before the debut, I sat down with Bruno, and I told him, I'm so afraid to disappoint you, because it's like you work really hard. And like Marco was very frustrated for a long time because rehearsals were great. But then when I went on stage, I was so tense and things weren't flowing. And it takes two to tango, but a lot of it was me mentally, right? So I told Bruno, I was like, I don't know if I've beat it. I don't know if I can be that person on stage that I want to be. And I know you have admired me for so long, and you've seen me on videos, and you want that Carol from that red
Yeah, yeah,
video,
yeah.
right?
And you don't want to
And
disappoint.
and I said, and I don't know if I'm gonna mess it up. I don't know if I'm gonna freeze. I don't know what's gonna happen. So we did that video that you're talking about. We danced in front of our friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before debuting in a congress, which is something that I learned from my partnership with Marco too. Don't just debut
Don't.
in an important congress and you've never done it before. And it
Oh,
came
girl,
out,
I know all about that
and
life.
girl, let me tell you,
Mm.
right? So it came out, and even though I criticize so many things, even with this video, like I love this video, but I can't watch so many things because I'm like, why are my shoulders going up, and why am I like, ugh? Like I'm just like
Mhm.
that. But I was able to dance with him and trust him and be on that stage, even if it was in front of our friends, and everything came out, and there was no mistakes. And before I went on stage, I said, I trust you. And I said that to myself. I said, Carol, it's time to trust yourself too, right? Your work, your experience, how much you've rehearsed this routine. You need to trust you. And I went on that stage trusting me, and I went on that stage trusting Bruno, and it was amazing. Like, even though the show wasn't perfect and I always have things to criticize, I was able to tap into that
Mhm.
I haven't been able to tap into for a long time, and it meant so much to me.
That's
It
that's
just
so
it was
beautiful.
it was a hurdle that I was able to overcome, and it meant a lot.
Well, I know speaking for probably all audience members out there, we're very grateful that you overcame that hurdle
I'm still
because
working on it, but
listen, you on
one
stage
hurdle at a time.
is always a beautiful thing to watch. Like you said, like a lot of people are commenting, you are such an inspiration to so many just watching you on that stage.
Thank
So
you so much.
keep doing it, keep creating, keep putting
Right.
yourself out there because we love it and we will always support you
Oh, thank
as
you.
your
It means a
fans.
lot. It means a lot. And I know I've had bad shows, and some people have been disappointed and whatever, but know that I don't take your love for granted or lightly. And
Mhm.
every time I get on that stage, I do it for me, I do it for my partner, and I do it for the people who have for years supported me. And I always try to work hard to overcome my challenges as a person and as a dancer,
Mhm.
because I'm inspired by so many of you. And I know it sounds like cliche, but it's the truth. I don't want to get on that stage and disappoint somebody that's seen me on videos
Absolutely.
for so long and that love me and admire me. So I go on that stage with that in mind, that I don't want to disappoint anybody, and that I don't want to just not live up to people's expectations, which is
Yeah.
hard.
It is hard. It's a lot of pressure we
It's
put
hard.
on ourselves as artists,
Yes. Yes.
but we love our fans, we love the audience and yeah, there is something about being on that stage and hoping that there's a little girl in the audience maybe that is watching and goes, "Oh, I wanna do that." Just like we somehow some of us
For
got
sure.
inspired, right?
For
Like,
sure. For sure.
so, where I know I've had this stuff scrolling on the bottom, your social media info, uh,
Yes.
Karel Flores fan page on Facebook or
Yes.
FP for the handle,
Yes.
Karel Flores on Instagram. You have
Yes.
your website. You have 2,
Yes.
right? So one website, can you just let everybody know the difference between the 2?
Yes. So carolflores.com is where you can go, like, buy merchandise, where you can sign up to my classes in person in New York, right?
Okay.
And usually, like, if I do, like, I don't know, virtual choreo courses or virtual things like that, that's where you go, carolflores.com, to sign up. And then there's carolfloresonline.com. And carolfloresonline.com is where you can take my online classes.
Okay.
Right. So my classes in person in New York are now streamed live through carolfloresonline.com. So you buy a
Gotcha.
subscription for $25, which is
Nothing.
basically what it charges you to go to class in person, and you get access to the whole library, from basic stuff, basic arms, basic things, to advanced classes, to my live classes. So you can literally take my class with me online as I'm teaching in New York, which I think is amazing.
That's absolutely amazing, and considering the fact that your fans are all over the world, I'm sure you're getting a lot of requests for that.
I mean,
So,
for me, I love just like all of a sudden I'm teaching and I have people on Zoom from everywhere. Like there is
mhm,
just it feels amazing. I mean, let me tell you, most people wanted the live classes, talk to me about the live classes, and they don't show up to the live class. They take the live class after. I'm like, why did you want a live class then? You can just take a video after. But
exactly.
it's still there. We invested a lot of money and effort into finding a system that worked well for the people who are taking the class online, to for them to hear the music and to hear me and the mic and you have no idea how stressful that is.
Oh, girl, I do. Online teaching has been quite the experience
Oh
for
my
all of
god.
us.
Because
We
it's
could,
one thing if you're teaching live with nobody in the room, which was
mhm,
happening in the pandemic, or if you're pre-recording a video, but to teach and for people in the room to be able to hear you and hear the music, and the people on Zoom to hear you and hear the
mhm,
music and no delay and the internet.
yep,
Every time we go, like, like we haven't had a lot of people like take it live, they take it after, but they don't know.
they
Like
don't
we
know.
get there like an hour earlier, my boyfriend is sweating, stressed out of his mind. We are like gluing cables through the roof to be able to like to have
Oh,
a
for
perfect
sure.
setup. People don't know what we go through, so come and take the class live, please, because we go through a lot for you to be able to take the class live.
For real. They have no idea. But that's what the arts always, right? People have no idea how much work goes on behind the scenes
Yes.
for the audience to get a nice product. Like
Yes,
it's
they have no
crazy.
idea.
They have no
Yes,
idea.
I'm sending you so much love. I love you so much from
Yeah,
Aruba, one of my
yes,
girls.
Aruba loves you.
Yes, I love Yana so
Aruba
much.
loves you. Before we wrap up, I have one final question to ask you. It's what I ask all of my guests. If there was one piece of advice you can give to women who want to make it in this industry, what would that be?
I've thought about this a lot,
Hmm.
right? Because yes, there is the hard work and the training with the right people and all of that, which sometimes might not be the best thing for your mental health,
Hmm.
right? It could be the best thing for your career. So if I could talk to Carol,
Hmm.
right, like 10 years 15 years ago, I would say find your people. If
Okay.
it's not working, don't force it and move on, right? Like you have to find that line where it's like, okay, I'm being resilient
Hmm.
and I can pull through this, or this is actually starting to hurt me emotionally, physically, or mentally, right?
Yes.
And if I would have known that a long time ago, I would have found Bruno a long time ago, and my career would have been different. Like find your people, find the right people for you, people who understand you. Always work on yourself, work on your mental health, work on your dancing, but make sure that you're surrounded by the right people, because they're gonna push you forward in the right way. And when you get to 36 or 37, you're not going to be dealing with stage fright,
Hmm.
right? Or with your mental health issues, right? You're just going to be enjoying the results of many years of hard work without having to go through all that. You don't have to go through all that. You don't have to go through the injuries. You don't have to go through the bad people to make
Yep.
it.
You
You can
shouldn't
have the
have to.
right people. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's like some people think that the struggle makes you better. No, the hard work makes you better.
So
Being
better.
resilient
Exactly.
to struggle makes you better,
So
but you don't have to suffer your whole life to be a proper artist. You don't have to. Don't put yourself
agreed.
through that. Don't do it.
Agreed.
That's
I
what I
think
think.
that's such important advice. I mean, I love the fact that I think every woman on the show has given me something else for that answer. I love that one.
Yeah.
Surround yourself. You don't have to suffer for your
You
art.
don't have to. You really don't. You really don't. I think that if I could do it again, I don't know if I would have done it the same way,
Interesting.
to be honest. Like, I love the things that I've been through. And I know people say, like, don't ever regret. It's not about regret.
Okay.
I think that I would have, with my personality and it's hard for me to even say with my talent, right? Like imposter syndrome, right? But
Yeah.
like with how hard I work and my resilience, I think I would have found a way to make it even in Mexico, right? Like I see
Hmm.
somebody like Karen and Ricardo, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to come to New York and be in a team to be who they are.
No,
I
of course.
think I could have been that without having to maybe struggle so much. I love what I've been through, and I love all of my processes, and they've got me to be here today. But don't think you need to suffer to make it. You don't. You can have a happy life. You can have the right people around you. You can leave the toxic relationship and be with the right people and still make
Mm-hmm.
it, as long as you work hard, as long as you're resilient, as long as you're focused, as long as you understand challenges, and as long as you keep going. So please don't think that you need to struggle, because you don't.
Powerful words from the one and only Karel Flores. Well, again, thank you so much for being on my show, for being on my season finale. I
Oh
couldn't
my
have
God, I'm so
I
honored.
I couldn't think of a better way to end the first season of this show. So thank you so much for giving of your time, not just today, but of giving of your talent to all of us for all these years. We very much appreciate you and love
Thank you
you.
so
So
much. I hope the season finale was like one of those in the series of Netflix that you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for the next one.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
I hope it was like that. And like I said before, I thank you so much for like trusting me to be here, and for the people who are here watching. I know some of you know me and have seen all my interviews, and you're still here today supporting me, and you've supported me throughout. Every comment, every share, every like, every DM, they make an impact in my life and my career, and they mean a lot, every single one. That's why I answer to all of them, or I try to. And I try to show the appreciation that I have for the appreciation that you give me. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We love you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned. There will be announcements about the second season online. It'll be starting end of September. We're going to start it off with a special recap episode to go look over all the highlights from season one. And of course, there will be footage of Karel for sure from there. So, with that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I'll see you guys next season.
Thank
Bye.
you.